In the last video, we started working on our layout using visual elements, images, and we created a parallax background. In today's video, we are going to continue working on our UI. We are going to introduce buttons and labels and get to know more about USS style class selectors. If you remember, in the last video, we were working on the upper panel. The plan is to add buttons below the ship image, so we are going to create a lower panel. We need another visual element in the main panel and place it below the upper panel. We can rename it as a lower panel. Its flags properties are shrink 1 and grow 1. In align, set align items to center, justify content to space evenly. Next, put visual element into lower panel and name it impulse drive. Set flag shrink to 1 and grow to 0 and direction to column. Align items to center and justify content also center. Width is 350 and height 300 pixels. Now we will introduce the label element. It's an element used to display text. It could be used for titles, descriptions, status text, UI captions, dynamic info like health, score, energy. We can find the label in control section and just drag it and drop inside impulse drive. Rename it as impulse text. Then we will create new class selector called text. In text properties, font style is bold, size 25, and set this color. Then apply this selector on impulse text. In Inspector under attributes, change its text attribute to impulse drive. Next, we need buttons. We all probably know what button is. It's an interactive UI element that users can click to trigger an action. It can also be found under the control section, and we can put two of them below impulse text. We can rename the first one as start impulse, then duplicate and name the new one stop impulse. In the inspector, put appropriate text attributes for them. For the first one, activate, and the second, deactivate. Now we need few more style class selectors, impulse button, for a button in deactivated state. We can drop it on stop impulse button, and it will have align self, a stretch, spacing margins, 20 pixels on all four sides, text size 35, color this one, and align it to the center and in the middle. Background is color this one, then border color this one, and width 3 pixels and radius 30 pixels. Other selector will be impulse button active. For the button in activated state, we can drop it on start impulse button, and it will have align self, stretch, spacing margin 20 pixels, all four sides, font style bold, size 35, color this one, align to center and middle, background color, put this one, border color is this one, and then we have width 3 pixels and radius 30 pixels. Now we're going to create one more USS style class selector, component selector. Component selectors are a bit different since with style class selector they have also pseudo-class selector. In Unity UI Toolkit, USS, pseudo-class selectors are special state selectors that applies styles when an element is in certain condition, hover, focus, checked, or disabled, and so on. They work exactly like CSS pseudo-class selectors. We will use hover and it will be implemented with impulse button. So the full name is impulse button hover. That means whenever we hover with mouse, for example, over any control that has applied the impulse button style selector, the impulse button hover will be applied automatically. When we move the mouse away, hover styles are removed automatically. There is no need for C# code for this. UI Toolkit handles the hover pseudo class automatically. So now we can create impulse button hover and it will have text this color, background color this, transform scale on X and Y axis is 1.05. As we have said, this component selector will be automatically applied whenever we hover over any control that has applied the impulse button style selector. We won't need to apply it manually. Also, we can check if this works here in UI Builder. Just press the preview button. With that, we have finished our work on layout in UI Builder. Now we can switch to C# script. Now back in our ship UI script, first we're gonna add few stuff. First, we need to create two variables that will hold a reference to our buttons. One for activate and the other for the deactivate button. Then in the onEnable method, we are getting the button elements with name start impulse and stop impulse. This is done by using a query method. So Q is our actual query method. Button is expected type we want to find, and start impulse is the element name we want to find. No activate impulse button points to the actual UI button. Then we need to register callbacks. These are the actual functions that are going to be executed when an event happens. We want to execute these functions on click event. So basically when the button is clicked. And here's the actual implementation of onActive impulse button clicked function. It sets the ship speed and the style of the start impulse button. Style changes are actually done by removing existing selectors and applying the new ones to both of the buttons. And at the end, the button text are set. In the callback for stop impulse button, ship speed is set to 0. And again, style selectors are adjusted accordingly as well as button texts. Now we are back in Unity. We can press play and check what we have. If we hover over the impulse button, we can see that a hover selector is applied. Pressing on the buttons will switch the style selectors on both of them, depending on the states. That's all for this video, and in the next video we will start working with sliders and progress bars.